You didn't find this video by accident. Out of billions of videos on this platform, you stopped here. And that alone is not a coincidence. Because tonight, Allah wants to remind you of something you were never supposed to forget. Everything that's ever happened to you, the heartbreak that broke you, the people who left without reason, the delays that made you question your worth, they were never random moments. They were pages in a divine story being written just for you. I know you've been asking why. Why the pain? Why the silence? Why does life feel so unfair sometimes? But what if the answer isn't in what you lost? What if it's hidden in what Allah was protecting you from? What if you were never being punished? You were being prepared? What if the people who disappeared were only sent to lead you back to the one who never leaves? Tonight, you're going to see your whole life differently. The rejections, the waiting, the quiet prayers that felt unanswered. All of it was part of a design so perfect, it could only have come from the one who knows what you don't. So don't rush. Don't skip ahead. Because before this hour ends, you'll understand why every coincidence, every heartbreak, every silence was actually a message. A message that says, you were never forgotten. Allah was never silent. He was simply guiding you in ways your heart couldn't hear yet. Now, listen closely, because what you're about to hear will make you see that every pain you've ever felt was leading you right here to this moment where Allah finally whispers, this was never a coincidence. The rejection that saved you. Sometimes, the greatest mercy from Allah comes disguised as heartbreak. It doesn't walk in with light and comfort. It comes with silence, with tears, with confusion. And yet, within that very pain lies the seed of your protection. There are moments in life when you're holding on to something so tightly that you can't imagine surviving without it. You think, if I lose this, I'll break. And then, Allah removes it anyway. You fall to your knees. You cry. You ask, why would you do this to me, Ya Allah? But He is answering you in a language your heart doesn't understand yet. Because sometimes, before He gives you peace, He must first remove what disturbs it. Before He leads you to safety, He must pull you away from danger. Even when that danger looks like love, success, or happiness. You might think He's ignoring you. In reality, He's protecting you from the fire you're trying to walk into. He knows the ending of the story while you're still reading the first page. He saw the betrayal you couldn't. He saw the pain hiding behind the promise. He saw the heartbreak waiting behind the smile. So, He stepped in and said, no. And His no is never cruelty. It is mercy wearing armor. Sometimes you don't see it for months. Sometimes it takes years. But one day, when you've healed enough to look back, you realize the very thing you cried for was the thing that would have broken you completely. There's a reason He took away that opportunity. There's a reason that person left. There's a reason your plans collapsed. He was never punishing you. He was rescuing you. He was redirecting your steps to a road you would have never chosen on your own. And that new road might look empty at first. It might feel lonely. You might say, I've lost everything. But in truth, you've only lost what was blocking your peace. The things that left were never yours to keep. They were only lessons dressed as blessings. You see, Allah sometimes closes a door, not because He wants you to stop dreaming, but because the room behind that door is on fire, and you're standing outside, crying, begging Him to let you in, not knowing that if He opened it, you'd burn. So He holds it shut with divine strength. You push, you plead, you say, please, Ya Allah, just this once. And He whispers, trust me. Then, years later, when you see what was truly behind that door, your heart trembles with gratitude. You fall in sujood, not to ask for anything, but to thank Him for the no that saved your soul. Sometimes rejection is just redirection with better lighting. Sometimes heartbreak is just healing in disguise. You didn't fail. You were protected. You weren't forgotten. You were favored. If Allah loves you, He won't let you settle for something that would destroy your peace. He'll strip away everything unstable until you learn to stand on faith alone. So, if something left you, if someone walked away, if life closed a chapter you were not ready to end, don't see it as cruelty. See it as cleansing. Maybe that friendship became toxic in ways you couldn't see. Maybe that relationship was pulling you away from Him. Maybe that dream was built on pride, not purpose. So He removed it before it could destroy you. Allah's protection doesn't always come wrapped in softness. Sometimes it comes wrapped in loss. It's easy to thank Him for what He gives, but the real test of maturity is learning to thank Him for what He takes away, because He never takes without giving something better. It might not be visible yet, but it's already written, and it's on its way to you. So breathe, wipe your tears. The one who took from you is the same one who will rebuild you stronger than before. The same heart that's crying today will smile tomorrow, not because everything is perfect, but because it finally understands that every rejection was actually protection in progress. Every unanswered prayer was Allah saying, "Be patient, my plan is greater." Every person who left was making space for peace you didn't know you needed. If He removes it, He replaces it. If He delays it, He perfects it. If He closes it, He's redirecting you towards something that fits your soul. Trust that, even when it hurts, even when it doesn't make sense, because His wisdom will always outshine your understanding. And when the moment comes, when you finally see the full picture, you'll whisper through grateful tears, "Now I see, you were saving me all along." The delay that built you. There will come a time in your life when you'll look at everything around you and wonder, why isn't it happening for me yet? You'll see others moving forward, starting families, finding success, building dreams, and you'll sit there quietly thinking, "Ya Allah, did you forget about me?" But the truth is, He didn't forget you. He's working on you. Sometimes, Allah slows your life down because He wants to strengthen what's hidden inside you. The world measures progress by movement, but Allah measures it by maturity. You see, there's a difference between being ready in your mind and being ready in your soul. You can think you're ready for the blessing, but Allah knows if it came now, it would break you instead of build you. So, He delays it. He stretches time. He lets you wait, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Every moment you think is empty time is actually sacred construction. Something inside you is being shaped quietly, invisibly. Your patience is expanding. Your gratitude is deepening. Your faith is hardening into something unshakable. Allah doesn't want to give you a blessing that your character can't hold. He wants the inside of you to be strong enough to carry what the outside of you is praying for. If He gave you everything you wanted the moment you asked, you would never grow. You would never learn how to depend on Him. You would never know the sweetness of seeing His plan unfold slowly. That's why the waiting hurts, because it's growth disguised as stillness. When nothing seems to be moving, you think Allah has gone silent, but He's actually building what you can't yet see. He's aligning people, events, and opportunities in perfect order. He's clearing away the wrong paths so the right one can appear without confusion. And when it finally arrives, you'll realize it couldn't have come a single day sooner, because you weren't the same person back then. Sometimes, before He gives you what you want, He must first teach you how to let go of what you don't need. He'll make you wait until you stop chasing validation, until you stop comparing your journey to others, until you stop measuring His love by how fast He answers. Because real faith isn't built when everything is easy. It's built in the middle of silence, when you keep believing even though nothing seems to be happening. That's the kind of faith that turns waiting into worship. Every time you say, "I trust you, Allah," the heavens take note. Every time you hold your tears in sujood and whisper, "Whatever is meant for me will find me," you're building something no one else can see. And that's what the delay is for, to polish the heart until it stops rushing. Allah loves you too much to hand you something that will harm you. He loves you too much to let you ruin what was meant to raise you. So, if your dua hasn't been answered yet, don't think it's been denied. Maybe it's still being written into the perfect moment. Because sometimes, what you call late is actually right on time in the unseen. There's a story being written right now, one that connects every unanswered prayer, every lonely night, every silent test. And when you finally reach that chapter where everything makes sense, you'll smile through your tears and whisper, "It was never a delay, it was preparation." Waiting is not wasted time. It's the classroom of the soul. In waiting, you learn how to breathe without control. You learn that your timeline isn't the only one that exists. You learn that peace is not found in rushing ahead, but in resting where you are and trusting who is guiding you. Allah is never in a hurry because perfection takes time. He's not building your blessing, He's building you. So, if you feel like life has paused, it hasn't. It's just Allah putting your story into sequence. He's making sure everything aligns in ways you could never organize yourself. The people you need to meet, the skills you need to learn, the lessons you need to absorb, they're all forming quietly in the background. And when it all comes together, you'll see why the delay was necessary. Because a blessing given too soon is a blessing lost too quickly, but a blessing given after patience becomes part of your soul forever. So don't be upset with the wait, be grateful for it, because the version of you that will walk into that answered dua won't be the same person who first made it. You'll walk in calmer, humbler, wiser. You'll thank Allah not only for giving it to you, but for teaching you to wait for it. That's what divine timing really is. Not late, not forgotten, but perfectly placed. You are not behind. You are being aligned, and the hands that are holding you still are the same hands that will open the next door when the time is right. So hold on to patience, breathe through the silence, and whisper from your heart, "I don't understand it now, but I trust that you do." Because when it finally arrives, you won't just get what you asked for, you'll be ready for it. And that readiness is the real miracle, the coincidence that wasn't. There are moments in life when something small happens, something that seems so ordinary, so random, that you don't even realize it might have been written for you long before you were born. You meet someone unexpectedly. You receive a message at the exact time your heart was breaking. You miss a bus, you lose a job, you hear a reminder that feels like it was written just for you, and you think, what a coincidence. But in truth, there are no coincidences in the life of a believer. Nothing just happens. Every step, every delay, every closed and open door is part of a story that's being written with divine precision. You don't see the full plan because you're inside the chapter, but Allah is the author. He already knows how it ends. Every face you've ever seen, every person who has entered or exited your life was sent or removed for a reason. Sometimes Allah hides people from you, not because they were bad, but because their chapter in your story was complete. And sometimes He sends a stranger who says one line that wakes something in your heart you didn't even know had fallen asleep. The meeting wasn't random. It was an appointment written in the unseen. How many times have you stumbled upon a video, a verse, a line of poetry that spoke directly to what you were feeling, as if someone had read your thoughts and whispered the answer? That's not an algorithm. That's not chance. That's mercy reaching out to remind you. You are seen. You are guided. You are not alone. Allah sends His signs through the smallest details, through the person you met at the right time, through the rejection that protected you, through the delay that built your patience, through the heartbreak that brought you back to Him. You call them coincidences. He calls them guidance. Think of the times something stopped you. A traffic light, a missed opportunity, a sudden change of plan. You felt frustration, but what if that delay saved your life? What if that silence protected your heart? What if that pause was divine timing, saying, "Not now, not this way"? You only see the surface of the ocean. Allah sees every current beneath. You see one scene. He sees the whole film. Every test that confused you was connected to a blessing that you couldn't yet handle. Every person who hurt you was part of the lesson that built your wisdom. Every place you left, it was only empty because it was never meant to be permanent. And when you look back, you'll realize how everything fits together, like threads in a beautiful design. Each color, even the dark ones, making the final picture complete. The truth is, Allah's plans are too detailed to be random. There's purpose in every turn. Even your mistakes were redirected toward mercy. Even your sins became reasons for repentance. You might think your path is messy, but from the heavens, it's perfectly aligned. Maybe you didn't get the job because Allah knew the environment would ruin your peace. Maybe you didn't marry that person because Allah knew your heart would lose itself trying to please them. Maybe you got sick so that your body could rest and your soul could wake up. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is meaningless. Every event carries a message. Allah is always teaching you something. The more you pay attention, the clearer His handwriting becomes in your life. Have you ever noticed how you often understand His plans only when you look back? At that time, you were crying, thinking your world was ending, but now you see, He was just redirecting you toward peace. That's why hindsight feels sacred, because you finally see that every turn was guided by hands that never let you fall. He placed you in every situation for a reason. The joy was to make you thankful. The pain was to make you humble. The silence was to make you listen. Even the mistakes you regret were doors that led you to wisdom. Even the people who broke your trust were mirrors showing you where your trust should truly rest. You see, life is not random. It's written with purpose and wrapped in mercy. And if you could look at your timeline from above, you'd see how perfectly every moment connects. You'd see how every tear watered the garden of your future. You'd see how every heartbreak carved space for new light. What you call coincidence is Allah saying, "I'm still here. I never left you." Sometimes the guidance doesn't come through words. It comes through feelings. You feel drawn to certain things. You feel peace around certain people. You feel uneasy when something isn't right. That's not random intuition. That's divine direction. Your heart is a compass when it's clean. It knows when something is good for you and when something isn't. And every time you ignored it, you learned why. That's not failure. That's how Allah teaches awareness. He doesn't only speak through the Quran or reminders. He speaks through moments, through silence, through changes, through the faces of those around you, through the timing of every event. Even now, reading these words, it's not by accident. This message found you because it was meant to, because tonight, your soul needed this reminder. Because Allah wanted to tell you again, I am still with you. I've been with you all along. Maybe you were starting to lose hope. Maybe you were tired of the waiting. Maybe you were wondering if your life had meaning. This is His way of answering you without words. It's His way of saying, every breath you take, every step you walk, every path you cross is part of my design. So stop calling it coincidence. Call it care. Call it mercy. Call it divine precision. You are not lost. You are being led. And if you ever doubt that, just remember the times when everything felt broken and somehow you still found your way through. You didn't do that alone. You were carried. That's what the unseen is. a hand that holds you even when you can't see it. Every coincidence is a conversation from Allah to your heart. You just have to learn how to listen. The pain that spoke to heaven. There are moments when pain sits so deeply inside you that words disappear. When you wake up and the world feels heavier than it used to. When smiling feels like acting and breathing feels like work, and you whisper, "Ya Allah, how much longer do I have to carry this?" What you don't see is that even your silence has sound in the heavens. Every tear that falls from your eyes is witnessed. Every sigh that escapes your chest is recorded. Even the pain you hide behind forced laughter reaches the one who never sleeps. Pain, in this world, speaks a private language. It doesn't need translation. It travels upward faster than words. Because Allah doesn't only hear your voice, He hears your heart. There are cries you never told anyone about, nights you stared at the ceiling, and thoughts you never dared to say out loud. But Allah knows. He knew the moment your heart broke. He knew the moment you tried to stay strong while everything inside you was collapsing. And even when you thought you were completely alone, He was already beside you, collecting the pieces of your strength that you thought were gone forever. You see, pain is not proof that Allah has abandoned you. It's proof that He is working within you. He allows pain not to destroy you, but to draw you closer to polish your soul until it shines again. Sometimes, the only way He can bring you back is by allowing your heart to crack. Because through those cracks, the light enters. The world may look at you and see weakness, but heaven sees someone who is being transformed. Pain changes the way you walk. It softens your tone, makes you gentler with others, more humble with blessings, more aware of what truly matters. It strips away the unnecessary noise and leaves only sincerity behind. That's why the people who have suffered most often speak with the calmest hearts, because they've met Allah in their darkest nights. Every scar tells a story, but the story isn't about what broke you. It's about who healed you. Sometimes Allah allows heartbreak to remove arrogance. Sometimes He allows loneliness to teach prayer. Sometimes He lets you taste emptiness, so you finally realize that nothing else can fill you except Him. And yes, it hurts. Healing always does. But He promises that with hardship comes ease. And that ease isn't always something that happens around you. Sometimes it's something that happens inside you. That quiet acceptance, that deep breath after crying, that small smile that returns after months of sadness. That's ease. That's Allah answering without words. The day will come when you look back and realize that your pain was not a punishment. It was a prayer being answered in a way you didn't recognize. It was Him pulling you away from what would harm you, even if you called it love at the time. He saw the danger in what you were asking for. He saw the weight of what you thought you could handle. And He said, "Not yet, my servant. I have better for you." Pain has a purpose. It refines. It cleanses. It reminds. If life was only made of comfort, you would forget who provides it. If everything you wanted came easily, your heart would grow proud and blind. So He slows you down. He gives you moments of stillness where the only thing you can do is sit, breathe, and feel. Because sometimes, the only way to notice His presence is when everything else is silent. And in that silence, when you whisper from the edge of exhaustion, He listens more closely than ever. He listens when your words are trembling. He listens when all you can say is His name. He listens even when you say nothing at all. He knows what you meant by the tear that never fell. He knows what you were trying to hide behind your smile. He knows what you pretend doesn't hurt anymore. Pain speaks in a language that the heavens are fluent in. No translation needed. You think you're breaking, but you're actually being rewritten. Every ache is rearranging your soul towards something higher. Every time you choose patience instead of anger, you grow. Every time you forgive instead of hate, you heal. Every time you cry to Him instead of running away, you rise. That's what pain does. It reintroduces you to your Creator. It strips away the distractions and whispers, "Return." And when you return, you realize He never left. Sometimes the lesson behind pain is not about endurance, it's about connection. Allah doesn't want you to just survive. He wants you to feel His nearness through what you thought would break you. Because the moment you say, "I can't do this alone," is the moment He whispers back, "You were never meant to." Pain is a reminder of dependency, a sacred pull back to the source of peace. The people around you might not understand what you're feeling. They might tell you to move on, to be strong, to forget. But Allah never rushes your healing. He lets the heart mend slowly. So every piece learns something before it fits back into place. One day, you'll see that every heartbreak, every sleepless night, every tear that hit your pillow was a seed planted in the soil of your soul. And when it blooms, you'll understand why it had to rain so much. The door that never opened. There comes a time in every person's life when a door you truly wanted to open simply doesn't. You knock, you wait, you cry, you pray, you try every way you can think of, and still, it stays closed. At first, you take it personally. You think, maybe I'm not good enough. You blame yourself, you blame time. Sometimes, you even start blaming Allah in the quiet corners of your heart. You whisper, "Ya Allah, I asked you with tears. I begged you in sujood. Why wouldn't you open this one door for me?" But one day, when the noise calms down, when you finally stop trying to break it open, you'll realize the truth. The door that didn't open was never meant to hurt you. It was meant to protect you. You see, Allah knows what's behind every door. He knows the things you cannot see. The betrayal behind that smile, the harm behind that opportunity, the heartbreak hiding behind that yes you were praying for. He sees the conversations that would have crushed your peace. He knows the plans others made that you knew nothing about. He knows that what looks good from the outside might be poison on the inside. So He closed it, not out of anger, but out of mercy. Not because you didn't deserve it, but because you deserved better. You begged for the key. He built a wall instead. You cried thinking He'd forgotten you, but He was guarding you while you couldn't see the danger. And that's the thing about closed doors. You only understand them when time passes. Right now, you might feel trapped, but in reality, you're being redirected. The pain you feel is not rejection. It's divine redirection in disguise. Sometimes, Allah removes what you think is best for you, so He can replace it with what's truly made for you. He won't let you enter a room that's on fire, even if the flames look like light from where you stand. And yet, we keep knocking, we keep pleading, we keep saying, "Ya Allah, just this once." But He knows the yes you want would destroy you, so He keeps you waiting. He keeps you safe. Do you remember the times something you wanted so badly didn't happen, and later, when the truth came out, you whispered, "Alhamdulillah, now I see why"? That moment of realization is what every closed door hides. Right now, you can't see it, but one day, you will. When that happens, you'll realize that if the door had opened, you would have walked into something that would have stolen your peace, your time, maybe even your faith. So, the next time a door refuses to open, instead of saying, "Why me?" try saying, "Ya Allah, if not this, then something better," because that's how He works. He doesn't close a door unless He's building another one, somewhere you can't see yet. Sometimes, He delays opening the right door until your heart has healed from trying to open the wrong one. He wants you to stop knocking on places that no longer lead to peace. There are doors that look like opportunities, but are actually traps. There are doors that shine brightly, but lead to darkness. There are doors that people call success, but would make you forget who you are. So, when Allah closes a door, He's not limiting you. He's redirecting you to something higher. He wants you to walk away not because you failed, but because your value doesn't belong there. Your soul is too precious to enter every room. That's why sometimes you'll lose something you loved deeply, and it'll feel like the end. You'll sit in that loss thinking, how do I start again? But you will start again, because what's meant for you doesn't need to be forced open. When Allah writes something for you, it comes gently. It knocks on your door instead. The right door won't make you chase. It won't make you lose sleep, wondering if you're enough. It won't require you to beg to be accepted. It will come with peace, because peace is the signature of Allah's plan. Sometimes, He even keeps multiple doors closed at once, so you finally stop running and start reflecting. He slows your steps until you turn inward, until you realize that maybe what you were searching for outside was meant to be found within, in your relationship with Him. Maybe the reason that job didn't work out is because He wanted you to realize you were depending too much on status. Maybe the reason that person didn't stay is because He wanted to teach you that love built on need isn't love at all. Maybe the reason your plans fell apart is because He wanted to give you new dreams built on faith, not fear. The doors that don't open are not endings. They are beginnings disguised as disappointments. They teach you how to surrender. They teach you how to stop trying to control what only Allah controls. They teach you that life isn't about collecting keys. It's about trusting the one who holds them. Because when Allah wants something for you, He doesn't need a key. He can simply say, be, and it is. You'll reach a point in your journey where the pain of what didn't happen will be replaced by gratitude for what did. You'll see how every no brought you closer to the right yes. You'll see how every delay led you away from disaster. You'll see how His silence was actually His greatest protection. And when that realization comes, you'll fall to your knees and say, Ya Allah, forgive me for ever doubting you, because now you'll understand. The door that never opened was never your loss. It was your rescue. He was saving you, not from the world, but from yourself. Sometimes He withholds something you love, because He knows it would make you forget Him. And Allah loves you too much to let that happen. So He closes the door. He lets you cry. He lets you question. And then, slowly, He replaces what was lost with something greater. Not because you earned it, but because He never stopped loving you. Sometimes, the most loving thing Allah can do for you is say no. We think love means giving, but real love also protects. And when the one who loves you most sees danger behind what you desire, He will block the path no matter how many times you try to open it. You'll cry at the doorway. You'll ask again and again. You'll press your forehead to the ground and whisper, please, Ya Allah, just this once. But that door won't move, and you'll feel like your prayers are disappearing into silence. Yet, in that silence, something sacred is happening. Your heart is learning how to surrender. It's learning that faith isn't proven when everything opens. It's proven when nothing does. Sometimes, He closes the door, so you learn that your worth is not measured by what you enter, but by who you turn to when every entrance disappears. That's when you meet the real version of yourself, the one that doesn't depend on outcomes to believe. You may think, if this door never opens, I'll be lost. But you won't, because while you were focused on that single wall, He was quietly building an entirely new house for you somewhere else. And when the time is right, He will walk you to that place and say, this is why I made you wait. And the beauty of it will make every unanswered prayer feel like mercy. The truth is, we don't know how to let go easily. We try to force things that were never ours. We stand in front of doors that have long been locked, and we exhaust ourselves trying to turn a key that doesn't fit. But Allah doesn't want you stuck in corridors of confusion. He wants you to keep walking. He wants you to learn that sometimes peace doesn't come from getting in. It comes from walking away. Maybe you didn't realize it, But each door that refused to open was guiding you to the right one. Each rejection was Allah whispering, "Not this one, my servant. I have better waiting down the hall." One day, you'll reach that door. It will open so effortlessly that you'll understand why every other one stayed closed. There will be no struggle, no begging, no fear. Just calm certainty that this is where you belong. That's how you know it's from Him. It comes with peace. And when you step through it, you'll finally see how divine timing feels. You'll see that if any of those earlier doors had opened, you wouldn't have had room for this blessing. You wouldn't have been ready to hold it. Because before He opens something new for you, He strengthens the hands that will carry it. He matures the heart that will protect it. The waiting, the tears, the confusion, they weren't wasted. They were building you quietly. Every time you said, "I don't understand," the heavens replied, "Wait a little longer, soon you will." And soon always comes. It comes like dawn after the longest night. It comes when you've stopped expecting it. It comes when you've finally learned that what is written for you can never be taken away, and what isn't written for you can never be forced. So, when you find yourself standing before a closed door again, don't panic. Don't lose yourself trying to make it open. Instead, take a step back and breathe. Say quietly, "If it's good for me, open it, Ya Allah. If it's not, keep it closed and make my heart content." That prayer alone brings peace because it hands control back to the one who knows what lies beyond every wall. He sees the conversations that haven't happened yet. He knows the tests that would follow each decision. He knows what would wound you tomorrow if you forced your way through today. That's why He sometimes sends exhaustion, so you finally stop pushing. He lets the lock stay firm until your soul whispers, "Maybe I'm meant to turn away." And when you turn, you realize there's light behind you that you couldn't see before. Another path, another chance, another door quietly waiting. You'll smile then, because suddenly you'll understand that every no was simply clearing the path for a better yes. And when you finally find that door, the one that opens gently without struggle, you'll know it's from Him. You'll walk through it with a heart at peace, and you'll look back at all the others and whisper, "Thank you, Allah, for every door that never opened." Because those doors didn't reject you. They redirected you to where you were always meant to be, the storm that became your bridge. Sometimes, life feels like standing in the middle of a storm that just won't end. The sky that once felt open now feels heavy. Everything you built starts shaking. The people you trusted drift away, and you whisper, "Ya Allah, why are you letting this happen to me?" But what you don't realize yet is that this storm isn't here to drown you. It's here to carry you somewhere new. Because every storm in your life has two purposes: to wash away what no longer belongs, and to reveal what was always meant to stay. You see, it's easy to love Allah when the weather is calm. It's easy to smile when everything works. But real faith is tested in thunder. When the wind is loud, when the road is unclear, when all you can do is hold on to His name. That's when you find out who you truly are. That's when faith leaves the tongue and enters the heart. Sometimes Allah shakes your world, not to punish you, but to push you to move. Because we grow comfortable in stillness, and we forget that comfort can become a cage. He sends the wind to break the cage. He lets the rain fall so that seeds inside you finally wake up. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it hurts. But He's teaching you to walk in the storm, to stop fearing the dark, to understand that lightning doesn't only destroy it, also illuminates. When you were standing in peace, you prayed lazily. When the storm came, your sujood became real. When you lost control, your heart finally said, "Only you, Ya Allah." That's what storms do. They humble you until you remember where peace truly lives. Every drop of rain that hits you now is washing away arrogance you didn't know you had. washing away the illusions that you were in charge. Because you're not. You never were. But isn't that freeing? To realize you don't have to hold the universe together. You just have to hold on to the one who does. Maybe this storm took away your plans, your comfort, your friends. Maybe it made you start again from zero. That's okay. Because sometimes zero is sacred. Zero is where you meet humility. Zero is where you finally say, Ya Allah, build me the way you want me. And that's when the rebuilding begins. He starts replacing what broke with something stronger. He rebuilds your confidence, but this time without pride. He rebuilds your patience, but this time with understanding. He rebuilds your trust, but this time in Him, not people. What you thought was the end was actually the beginning of a wiser you. Storms have a strange beauty. They destroy, but they also reveal. After they pass, you can see the horizon clearly again. You realize what matters, what never did, and who was holding you all along. The pain that came with the storm will not last forever. Even the darkest clouds can't block the sun for long. Eventually, the wind will calm, the air will clear, and you'll feel something new. A quiet gratitude for the rain that once terrified you. Because without it, you'd still be standing where you were, believing that peace comes from control. Now you know it comes from surrender. Allah never promised you a life without storms. He promised you shelter within them. He promised that when the waves rise, He will not let you sink if you keep calling His name. And every time you thought you were drowning, He was actually teaching you how to swim. You thought the storm was sent to destroy you. But look, you're still here. You survived. And in surviving, you changed. You're softer now, wiser, more aware of how fragile and precious peace really is. That's why He allowed it. Because without the storm, you would have never discovered your own strength. Every time the thunder scared you, He was saying, "Don't run, trust me." Every time the rain fell harder, He was saying, "I'm washing away what you don't need." Every time you cried, He was saying, "I'm listening." You thought you were alone out there, but He was walking beside you, in every gust of wind, guiding your steps toward a shore you didn't even know existed. When you finally reach that shore, you'll look back and realize the very storm you cursed became the bridge that led you there. When you reach the other side of a storm, the air feels different. You start noticing things you never saw before. The quiet, the light, the smell of the earth after rain. That's how life feels once you've survived something that nearly broke you. You breathe in deeper. You walk slower. You thank Allah for ordinary days. The things that once felt small begin to feel holy. A smile, a cup of water, a good night's sleep. Because storms make you see the value of peace. At first, you only wanted the rain to stop. You begged, "Ya Allah, just make it end." But now you realize that if it had stopped too soon, you wouldn't have learned the strength that came from holding on. You wouldn't have learned that pain and peace can exist in the same heart. And maybe that's the real lesson. You don't have to wait for everything to be perfect to feel calm. You can stand in the middle of wind and still whisper, "I trust you." When you do that, the storm loses power over you. The situation might not change, but your heart does. And suddenly, you can walk through the chaos without being swallowed by it. That's what Allah wants for you. Not a life free of challenges, but a heart free of fear. Each hardship He sends is customized for your soul. It arrives exactly when you need to grow in a way comfort could never teach. Every test is shaped perfectly to the cracks in your faith, to seal them with patience, hope, and surrender. And the most beautiful part? The same storm that once felt endless becomes the very bridge that carries you closer to Him. The same pain that made you cry becomes the reason you finally pray sincerely. The same loneliness that made you feel forgotten becomes the silence where you learn He was always there. Nothing was wasted. No there, no loss, no sleepless night. All of it was building something eternal inside you. When people look at you later, they'll see peace in your eyes and ask, "How did you stay strong through all that?" And you'll smile softly because you know it wasn't strength, it was guidance. You'll remember the nights you broke down, the mornings you didn't think you could face, and you'll whisper, "He carried me," because He did. He carried you through the storm you thought would drown you. He kept your heart beating when you were too tired to try. He whispered calm into your chaos until you could hear Him again. And now, that storm has become your testimony, the story you'll tell to remind others that mercy hides inside hardship. You'll be able to tell someone, "I know you feel lost right now, but this pain will one day make you gentle, and this darkness will one day make you grateful for light." Every storm passes, eventually, and when it does, you'll stand there, beneath a clear sky, with your hands raised and your voice steady, saying, "Thank you for every drop of rain that taught me who you are." Because you'll understand that storms were never enemies. They were teachers. They came to guide you from where you were to where you were always meant to be. So, when the next one arrives, and it will, don't fear it. Remember how the last one shaped you. You've already learned how to walk through thunder with peace in your chest. You've already seen how pain can open doors that comfort never could. Let the wind remind you that you are alive. Let the rain remind you that your soul can still feel. And let every storm remind you that no matter how loud the world gets, the whisper of Allah's mercy will always be louder. You were never meant to stay lost in the storm. You were meant to walk through it, to cross the bridge it created, and to arrive on the other side, stronger, softer, wiser, and closer to the one who sent it. And when you finally stand on that shore of calm, you'll look back at the clouds fading behind you and say, "If it weren't for that storm, I would have never found this peace." The silence that teaches trust. There are times in life when silence feels heavier than pain, when you keep praying, but nothing seems to change. When you wake up, whisper your dua again, and again, the day ends exactly the same. And you think, "Ya Allah, do you still hear me?" That is the hardest part of faith. Not when Allah says no, but when He says nothing. Because silence can sound like distance. It can feel like being forgotten, and your heart starts to ache, not just from what you're missing, but from wondering why the one you love most is so quiet. But silence from Allah is never absence. It's attention. It's a test that whispers, "Do you still trust me when you can't trace me?" When a teacher gives a test, they don't talk, not because they've left the room, but because they want to see what the student remembers. Allah does the same. He goes quiet, not to abandon you, but to let your faith speak for you. That silence you hate so much is sacred ground. It's where patience is born, where worship becomes real, where belief stops being words and becomes a heartbeat. In silence, your soul learns to listen differently. You start hearing things you missed before, the sound of your own breathing, the rhythm of your tears, the calm whisper that says, "Keep going, I'm still here." Because Allah doesn't only answer in words. He answers in moments, in signs, in the quiet unfolding of time. The problem is, we expect Him to reply in the language of sound, when He often replies in the language of mercy. Maybe the delay is the answer. Maybe the pause is protection. Maybe the silence is the lesson itself, that your peace cannot depend on constant replies, but on constant trust. Think about it. How many times in your past did you cry, thinking Allah was silent, only to look back later and realize He was rearranging your life perfectly? The silence was never empty. It was full of hidden movement. Every door that stayed closed, every friend who walked away, every dua that seemed unanswered, they were all pieces of a plan that was still forming. The heavens are not ignoring you. They're working on timing you can't comprehend. Sometimes Allah hides answers so you search for Him instead of results. He slows down outcomes so you can strengthen connection. Because if He gave you everything instantly, you would stop talking to Him once you got it. But when He keeps you waiting, you keep returning again and again until your dua becomes not just a request, but a relationship. That's the beauty of divine silence. It turns desperation into devotion. It's easy to believe in Allah when life feels gentle. It's easy to smile when prayers are answered fast. But true faith is when the prayer lingers in the air and you still whisper, "I trust you." That whisper is heard louder in the heavens than 1,000 words of complaint. Because trust is worship. Trust is surrender. Trust is saying, even if I don't see it, I know you're still writing something beautiful. You might not feel His presence right now, but feelings are not proof of faith. Constancy is. The fact that you keep praying, even when your heart feels dry, is proof that faith is alive inside you. Maybe Allah is teaching you to love Him beyond emotion, to worship Him not only when you feel close, but even when you feel distant, because sometimes He hides His nearness to see if you'll still seek it. And when you keep seeking, you rise. That's what silence does. It stretches your soul. It teaches you patience without evidence. It teaches you love without condition. It teaches you surrender without sight. Every time you pray and feel nothing, you're still being recorded as someone who stayed. Every time you say Alhamdulillah through tears, the angels write it down as victory. Because worship during silence counts more than worship during ease. Allah's quiet seasons are like winter for the heart. Cold, lonely, but necessary. They prepare the soil for new growth. They teach you to hold on when warmth seems gone. And then, when spring finally arrives, you bloom differently. Not in pride, but in peace. You realize you didn't just survive the silence. You were transformed by it. The same silence that once scared you became the space where your faith found its voice. You learned that even when heaven seems quiet, your prayers still travel faster than light. They reach places you can't imagine, because not a single Ya Allah ever disappears into the air. It lands exactly where it needs to, under the throne of the one who hears everything, even the du'as you no longer have words for. So next time you pray and feel nothing, don't stop. Keep going. Because the silence is not punishment, it's promotion. Allah is elevating you from faith based on feelings to faith based on certainty. He's polishing your heart until trust becomes its natural rhythm. You'll see it one day. The thing you kept asking for will arrive quietly, without noise, without rush, and you'll realize it came at the exact second you were ready, not a moment before. And you'll smile softly and say, "So this was what the silence was preparing me for." The silence you once feared will one day become your most peaceful memory. You'll remember those long nights when you felt ignored by the heavens, and you'll realize that every second of that quiet was building something inside you that noise never could. You'll remember how you kept praying when there was no response, and you'll see that the act of staying was the answer. Because sometimes Allah doesn't change the situation, He changes the soul that's inside it. He kept you in that stillness until your heart learned how to breathe again. He slowed everything down so you would finally stop chasing outcomes and start resting in His will. Every unanswered prayer was shaping your patience. Every delay was polishing your trust. Every silence was saying, "Stay with me even when you can't see me." There's a kind of love that doesn't need words. Mothers have it with their children. They understand without speaking. Allah's mercy is far greater than that. When He is silent, He is still communicating. He's telling you, "Be calm, my servant. You are safe even in uncertainty." Sometimes He stays quiet because He wants to show you That peace doesn't come from hearing him. It comes from knowing he's there. Knowing is stronger than hearing. It's the kind of faith that can walk through darkness without asking for a torch. You don't have to see light to believe in dawn. You just have to trust that the sun has never failed to rise. That's what trust in Allah really is. Believing in His presence even when your eyes see nothing. And when your heart reaches that level of calm, you'll notice that silence no longer hurts. It heals, because it's no longer empty. It's filled with certainty. You'll sit in a quiet room with no replies, no changes, no new signs, and still feel peace spread gently inside your chest. That peace is proof that silence was never your enemy. It was your teacher. Every believer goes through it. Even the strongest hearts are tested with quiet seasons. It's part of how faith matures. A flower doesn't grow while you watch it. It grows silently under the soil. In the same way, your heart grows in the unseen. And one day, when the time is right, that silent seed becomes a tree of calm certainty. Its roots are deep, no storm can pull it out again. That's the gift, hidden in every period of waiting. You emerge unshakable. People might look at you later and say, "You've changed. You're so calm now." And you'll smile, because you know what it took. They saw the bloom, but not the winter. They saw the peace, but not the nights you cried into the floor, asking, "Where are you?" You'll remember how you kept whispering His name anyway, and you'll realize that's what brought you here. Silence taught you to rely on the unseen. It taught you that your dua isn't about immediate results. It's about relationship. It taught you that sometimes the answer is not a miracle outside you, but a transformation inside you. Because when you stop hearing, you start feeling. You begin to sense the mercy hidden in small things. A random kindness, a moment of ease, a bit of strength that arrives from nowhere. All quiet replies. Allah never leaves a believer without response. He just answers in the way that benefits you most. Sometimes it's yes. Sometimes it's not yet. And sometimes it's silence, which really means, wait, I'm still preparing you. There will come a morning when you wake up and realize that the silence has ended, that everything you prayed for is unfolding softly. You won't hear a dramatic sound. You'll just notice how naturally things fit together. The people you meet, the opportunities, the timing, all in harmony. And you'll know this was worth the wait. You'll whisper, "Thank you for the silence, Ya Allah. It taught me to listen differently. It taught me to love you even when I didn't feel you. It taught me to walk by faith, not by sight." And that's the highest level of trust, to be at peace even when heaven is quiet. So, if you're in that season now, don't give up. Keep praying, even when your heart feels dry. Keep showing up, even when nothing moves. Keep trusting, even when no sign appears. Because every second of this silence is polishing your heart for something you can't imagine yet. Soon, the same quiet that scares you will become the calm you thank Him for. The silence you thought was emptiness will one day echo with realization. He was there the whole time. This was never a coincidence. Sometimes you come across a moment that feels ordinary on the outside, but shakes your soul on the inside. A video you weren't looking for. A sentence that lands in your heart like light. A face you meet only once, but can't forget. And you think to yourself, what are the chances? But there are no chances with Allah. Nothing is random in a story written by the one who never miswrites a line. Every encounter, every delay, every detour, they are all threads in a fabric you can't yet see. To you, it looks like coincidence. To Him, it's precision. You were meant to be here, in this moment, reading these words, because something in them was written just for you. Maybe you were scrolling through hundreds of voices and stopped here. Maybe you were asking quietly for a sign, and this message found you before your tears could dry. That isn't coincidence. That's mercy choosing you again. Allah sends reminders in ways that blend into daily life. He hides His messages inside timing, inside pauses, inside the people who appear exactly when you need them. He weaves care into the ordinary, so you'll find Him even in small things. The reminder that showed up tonight, the one that feels like it's speaking directly to you, was written for you long before you even asked for guidance. You see, nothing about your journey has been random. The days that felt wasted were days He used to prepare you. The people who left were part of your protection plan. The mistakes that haunt you were the tools He used to carve humility into your heart. Even the heartbreaks were chosen with detail, so that the cracks in your heart could let the light of awareness in. When you thought life was falling apart, it was actually falling into place. The pain that forced you to stop was just Him turning you around. Every accident in your story carried a message. The friend who called at the exact time you were breaking. The stranger whose kindness felt like medicine. The job you didn't get that led you to the one that changed everything. He has always been arranging, scheduling, aligning. You don't have to see His handwriting to know it's there. Just look at how many times you almost gave up, and then something small pulled you back. That pull was Him. The soft thought that said, "Keep going," was Him. The peace that suddenly returned in the middle of chaos, that was Him too. Nothing escapes His design. Even the way you're breathing right now fits into His mercy. We often look for big miracles. The lightning strike, the dramatic sign, the loud answer. But the real miracles are quiet. They hide in perfect timing. They hide in the way you meet the right reminder just before you break. They hide in the way your heart softens when it should have turned hard. Those are the whispers of Allah. Gentle, precise, and personal. He doesn't always shout through thunder. Sometimes He nudges through stillness. He doesn't always rescue you loudly. Sometimes He changes the direction of your steps without you noticing. That's why, when you look back on your life, you can trace His fingerprints on every chapter. You'll see that the worst days carried the most meaning. You'll see that the wrong turns were actually shortcuts to truth. He's been guiding you since the very beginning, guiding you through the laughter and the loss, through the noise and the quiet. And tonight, He guided you here again, to remind you that you were never walking alone. If you've been searching for reassurance, this is it. This is that soft knock on your heart saying, "You are still on my path, keep walking." The world calls it coincidence. Believers call it qadr, destiny measured by love, timed with precision, delivered with care. Every event that has shaped you, every face, every heartbreak, every closed door, was stitched together by the same hand that now comforts you. The fact that you survived things you thought would end you is proof that His plan is bigger than your pain. Even your smallest decisions were gently redirected. Every time you said, "I didn't plan this," He smiled, because He did. There are no coincidences in mercy. Even the smallest kindness you gave someone was part of a chain reaction that He orchestrated. You'll never know how far it traveled, how one good word saved someone from despair, how one act of patience changed a heart. You were meant to cross paths with certain souls, to learn, to teach, to awaken. No meeting was random. No goodbye was wasted. Some people entered to test your patience, others to reflect your own light back to you. And when their part in your story was complete, He turned the page. So if you're wondering why something ended suddenly, or why someone left without closure, remember, the author of your story never leaves an unfinished sentence. He only removes what no longer serves the next chapter. What feels like loss today is simply space being made for what's written next. When you begin to see life this way, peace finally returns. You stop asking, "Why did that happen?" and start saying, What was I supposed to learn? Because every event that confused you carried a lesson meant only for you. The delay was teaching you patience. The rejection was building your strength. The heartbreak was reminding you where real love lives. Every single thing had a reason, even the moments that seemed meaningless. Sometimes Allah hides the wisdom for years. He lets you grow first, and then, one random day, when you're ready, He lets the pieces fit together. You'll be washing dishes, walking outside, or scrolling your phone, and suddenly the memory of an old wound will appear. But this time, it won't hurt. You'll smile and whisper, "Now I understand." That realization is one of the purest gifts of faith. It's Allah saying, "See, I never left you. I was guiding you the whole time." The truth is, guidance rarely comes as thunder. It often comes as a gentle feeling in the heart, a sudden calm after crying, a thought that brings peace when nothing else does, a small event that redirects you completely. That's how mercy moves quietly, but precisely. You can trace His care in the little things. The friend who checked on you without knowing what you were going through, the message that arrived at the perfect time, the opportunity that opened the week you were ready to quit. These are not coincidences. They're proofs that heaven is paying attention. You are living inside a design that was written with love. Every roadblock, every redirection, every unseen rescue is part of a divine choreography that never misses a beat. And the more you trust it, the lighter your steps become. You stop chasing control. You stop overthinking every turn. Because now you know nothing truly belongs to you, but everything is working for you. Even the detours are blessings in disguise. Sometimes Allah protects you by delaying your dream. Sometimes He loves you by removing what you wanted most. And sometimes He honors you by giving you something you never thought to ask for. That's why gratitude should never wait for understanding. You thank Him first, and clarity follows later. When you start living with that awareness, life becomes softer. You stop fighting the flow of destiny and start resting inside it. You stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "Use me for what you will." That surrender is peace. It's the golden whisper of the heart that finally understands. Every coincidence was communication. Every delay was direction. Every pain was purification. Look back for a moment. Everything you thought was the end was actually a beginning in disguise. The roads that collapsed behind you were closing only so your focus could move forward. The prayers that seemed ignored were simply waiting for the right chapter. And tonight, this reminder reaching you is part of that same story. You weren't meant to find it earlier. You were meant to hear it now, after everything you've survived, so that its words could land exactly where they belong. Because Allah times every message perfectly. He knows when your heart is quiet enough to listen. He knows when a single sentence can do more healing than 100 conversations. That's what this moment is, a soft meeting between His wisdom and your need. So let it sink in. You were never lost. You were being led. Every path, every person, every pause was His handwriting guiding you back to Him. And when you finally realize this, the tears that once fell from confusion to begin to fall from gratitude, you'll whisper softly, "It was never a coincidence. It was you all along." That whisper becomes your peace. It becomes your prayer. And from that day on, even when life surprises you, you'll smile and say, "I don't know what this means yet, but I know who sent it." Because when the heart reaches that level of trust, every moment, joy or pain, feels like a message from the one who loves you most. And that, dear soul, is the golden whisper that was meant to find you tonight. Before this video ends, pause for a moment. Look at how far you've come. Every tear you cried, thinking Allah had forgotten you. Every prayer that went unanswered, every chapter that ended too soon, it all led you here. Nothing in your story was random. Not the heartbreak, not the delay, not the silence. Every moment that confused you was carrying you quietly toward this realization. He knew all along. You thought you were lost, but he was guiding you in ways you couldn't see. You thought the silence meant distance, but it was the space where trust was born. You thought the door that never opened was rejection, but it was protection. And now, when you look back, you'll see how every coincidence was actually mercy wearing disguise. How every ending was a doorway to something better. How every unanswered dua was an answer you just didn't recognize yet. My dear listener, you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are exactly where Allah wants you to be. Every delay has purpose. Every silence has wisdom. And every heartbreak is an invitation to return home. So tonight, when you close your eyes, don't ask why me. Say Alhamdulillah for the parts I still don't understand. Because even in what hurts, His mercy is hiding. Even in what's missing, His plan is moving. The same Allah who wrote your pain also wrote your healing. And the same silence that once broke you will soon become the peace that rebuilds you. So, if you're hearing this right now, know that it was never a coincidence. You were meant to hear these words. You were meant to be reminded that Allah has always been near, closer than your breath, gentler than your thoughts, wiser than your plans. Keep trusting Him in the unseen, because when the time comes, you'll look back and smile through tears, whispering, "Now I understand." It was never random. It was always you.